This is my first foray into vlogging. I hope you like it. Although matchday policing and the treatment of supporters at games is not my usual focus, I'm going to make an exception for a piece on structured dialogue. If you follow the likes of Amanda Jacks, FSF Fair Cop, on Twitter, you'll often see evidence of supporters treated as a public order issue. In a recent article in The Guardian, Nick Glynn, a retired senior police officer, former football commander, an advisor for nearly 2 decades and an expert witness on the police use of force, wrote about the policing and stewarding of the match between AFC Bournemouth and Manchester City back in August. That got me thinking about the position of supporters in terms of the actual law and how that might contradict the current direction of travel in terms of structured dialogue and supporters as stakeholders. We're increasingly seeing clubs and the authorities wanting to treat supporters as stakeholders. This sets up a clash between the law and practice and makes it very difficult for football as a whole to change its approach. So why are supporters treated in the way they are, and what is the impact on structured dialogue? What are the implications? What might need to happen to change this? Narrative is important, undoubtedly. The story about what supporters are and how they behave is a very powerful element and is fundamental to this. How they need to be controlled and treated as a public order issue is long-standing. It was essentially created in the 70s and 80s when there were problems with hooliganism. However, even then the state of the game was a complex picture. Supporters weren't themselves treated particularly well. There were badly dilapidated stadiums, crumbling terraces, supporters being herded into pens, and detached owners and authorities making decisions without any input, let alone consent, from those that they affected. A very, very different game to today's. From this emerged the laws that we now have that govern how supporters must be treated. The Football Offences Act, for example. But we've got law which in essence makes all supporters potential offenders and under suspicion. Then it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to reframe those people as constructive stakeholders or people that you consult. Whatever way you describe it, the law appears to be forcing clubs and the police and the authorities, and I think forcing is the right word in some respects, to treat fans in this way. Yes, they have a choice within the law as to how they exercise that. However, that law cannot be fundamentally altered. The result is a contradiction that needs resolving. Of course, it doesn't prevent examples of good practice, and there are plenty in structured dialogue and good relationship building. Brighton, Norwich and Millwall, for example, do this, and I've featured Norwich on my own blog. They should be congratulated for that. It should be something that's spread as good practice as much as possible. However, the law and the position of supporters in that respect makes it difficult for the whole industry to really shift over to this form of relationship that we see developing. As much as clubs try to create programmes of structured dialogue, and the game as a whole has now largely accepted the role of supporters as stakeholders, the law is the effective hard border that prevents a real substantive change in the narrative and a meaningful embracing of the role of supporters as stakeholders in the game. Solution to this change isn't just within football. It means that at some point politicians will have to respond. I hope you enjoyed watching. Cheers.